Some problems with my computer, but I think I'm okay now. Sorry again for that. Start with the Manglacharan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Chakshurunmaditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachanam pangam langyate girem yatkripatama vande Sri Gurudena taranam paramanandam madhavam. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtha Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachachade Satarane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shavasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, thank you so much for being here. And for those of you who have your cameras on, thank you. We will resume our group discussions. So we'll do 3 groups, and after that we have some time for discussions based on that. Okay, over to you, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. We'll start with the group 1 for the chapter 13 summary.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So I'll be sharing my screen. I hope it is still visible, Prabhu. So I'll start. Today I'll be discussing the 5 potent forms of devotional service on behalf of Group 1, which is the 13th chapter of Nectar of Devotions. This is again one of the shorter chapters. So the overview of the 5 practices is that Bhagavat Shravan or hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Murti Seva or worshipping the deity, Mathura Vas or residing in Mathura Vrindavan or any dham, Sadhu Sangha association with devotees, and Nam Kirtan or chanting the holy names. We'll be diving into each one. So in this particular chapter, we will see a little bit of a funnier side of Rupa Goswami. He'll translate it in a very humorous and a little bit of a sarcastic way. So for Sri Murti Seva, the translation of the verse is that, my dear friend, if you still have any desire to enjoy the company of your friends within this material world, then don't look upon the form of Krishna who is standing on the bank of Keshi Ghat. He is known as Govinda. His eyes are very enchanting. He is playing upon his flute, and on his head there is a peacock feather, and his whole body is illuminated by the moonlight in the sky. So Prabhupada says that deity worship not only purifies us in spiritually, but also helps on forget material attachments. And Prabhupada reiterates by saying that it's a duty of every householder to install and worship deities at home. And deities would also protect us from degrading. Deities worship also protects us from degrading activities like going to clubs, cinemas, and pretty much any bad habit. And just to see the Sri Murtis of Radha and Krishna is to forget all the endeavors of material association. One must see the form of Govinda if one at all wants to forget the nonsense of material, friendship, love, and society. So Prabhupada says that anything material can be forgotten by just performing deity worship. And then Mathuravas, or living in the holy dham. Rupa Goswami says that, I remember the Lord standing by the banks of the Yamuna river, so beautiful amid the Kadamba trees, where many birds are chirping in the gardens. And these impressions are always giving me transcendental realization of beauty and bliss. So Prabhupada discusses that not only visiting the holy dham is purifying for the devotees, which is quite natural, but also the holy places awaken devotion even amongst non-devotees. They are not a material location which is present in a certain area or in a certain state, but they are transcendental locations. So Rupa Goswami describes here the transcendental joy of the Yamuna banks and the Kadamba trees, where Krishna had unlimited pastimes present. And next is hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavat Shravan, where Rupa Goswami says, my dear foolish friend, I think that you have already heard some of the auspicious auspicious Srimad Bhagavatam, which decries seeking the result of fruitive activities, economic development, and liberation. I think that now it is certain that gradually the verse of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam described the pastimes of the Lord will enter your ears and go into your heart. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it very much starts off by throwing out the garbage like fruitive results or economic development by the pretty much the first verse. It's actually the second verse. Dharma projita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. So here, right at the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, all of the lower ritualistic deeds are being dismissed. And one who studies the Srimad Bhagavatam in the spirit of renunciation, so this is something I found very interesting. The spirit of renunciation can understand the pastimes of the Lord that are described in the 10th canto. So you should not jump into the 10th canto and especially the Ras Leela unless you have the spontaneous attraction of Srimad Bhagavatam. So there is this one question I asked someone that how is Srimad Bhagavatam so powerful? It's a question of that extent. So, and I asked something about the Ras Leela. How can Krishna do this? When I was in a much younger stage in Bhakti, and the person who was my senior who told that, have you read, do you know where did Ras Leela happen? And he told me, I told him, yeah, I know. And where is it? I didn't know at that point. He told it's in the 10th canto. And he told if you read 1 through 9, and if you go to Ras Leela in the 10th canto, you'll start crying. So just if you read Srimad Bhagavatam in order from canto 1 to canto 12, you'll get the result which Prabhupada has promised here. And next is Namakirtan, or chanting the holy name, where Rupa Goswami says, it is said that the saints have been able to hear the vibrating strings of the veena in the hands of Narada, who is always singing the glories of Lord Krishna. Now, the same sound vibration has entered my ears, and I am feeling the presence of the Supreme Personality. Gradually, I am becoming bereft of all attachment for material enjoyment. So here, the chanting is represented by Narada's veena, which is always feeling the presence of Krishna. And if you keep chanting and if you persist on it, you'll gradually be detached from the material desires. And the last one is sadhu sangha or association with devotees, where Rupa Goswami says, "It is very astonishing that since I have seen this personality of Godhead who is washed by the tears of my eyes, there is the shivering of my body, and he has made me a failure in executing my material duties. Since seeing him, I cannot remain silently at home. I wish to go out to him always." So, as soon as one is fortunate enough to get in contact with the pure devotee, Prabhupada says one must be anxious immediately to hear about Krishna, to learn about Krishna, or in other words, to become fully Krishna conscious. So that is something we must all learn, that as soon as one is in contact with the pure devotee, we should invoke our own interest to learn and to become Krishna conscious. And then Prabhupada talks about, are these all exaggerated examples, or are they real, or are they like just a story? So Prabhupada confirms that these might be exaggerated for a person who doesn't know much about bhakti, but the scriptures confirm them. There are two examples given by Prabhupada of the four Kumaras and Bilva Mangal Thakur, who just needed a moment's association of the Lord, either through smelling of the incense or just by hearing about Krishna, that they immediately became completely Krishna conscious. And for a person who's already in contact with Krishna consciousness, these results are not very unusual, because in everyone's life, we have seen to a certain extent the miracles performed by Lord Krishna within us to bring us to Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada talks about then the role of Varnashrama Dharma. So, for a practicing devotee, can Varnashrama gradually rise to the perfections reached by the practicing devotional service? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately rejected the concept of Varnashrama Dharma, calling it as something external, when Ramananda Rai proposed it in the very enticing conversation between Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Varna and ashrama are simply external, and the example given here is in 1866, "Give up all dharmas and surrender unto me. Sarva dharman parityajya." But should everyone give up their varnashrama dharma? No, because one should execute prescribed duties for varna and ashrama as long as one has not developed the attachment for hearing about the pastimes of the Lord. So these varnas and ashramas are therefore artha, kama, and moksha, which means economic development, sense gratification, or salvation. All such activities are recommended in the revealed scripture only to the point to bring one to the point of Krishna consciousness. So even our Bhayahari Prabhu has mentioned that every most of Vedas are just karma kanda, and then at the end of each Veda, in the Vedanta, they'll talk about how useless karma kanda is. And then the last stage would be the Bhagavatam, where we get the highest point of Krishna consciousness. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Kaushik Prabhu. Thank you for a nice presentation. I liked your slides and consistent theme. One point I wanted to make, it's a small point, but the verse about not seeing Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada writes that Rupa Goswami has written the verse, which he has written in the Nectar of Devotion in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but he's actually quoting Bil Mangal Thakur. So the original author of the verse is actually Bil Mangal Thakur, and Rupa Goswami writes it in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So Prabhupada rightly says Rupa Goswami writes it, but it's actually a quote from Bil Mangal Thakur. And I think you had another reference to Bil Mangal Thakur later
Yes.
on in your.
Thank you for that, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice.
We move to group 2.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So in group 2, we are doing on chapter 14 about devotional qualification. So we came this far talking about bhakti and knowledge and all these things. So devotional service is completely independent of knowledge or renunciation. Uh, However, knowledge and renunciation are favorable for Krishna consciousness, but it is not only dependent to the knowledge or renunciation. So there is a great deal of sincerity and desire to serve Krishna is also required. And so for the devotional services, so there is a like when we do mental speculation or just do physical austerities like yoga and all those things. So those could be unfavorable. So one the favorable thing is so and then so if we have just a desire just to if we have a bhakti, so that is more favorable. And then devotional service is the way that we can gain Krishna consciousness, and we can understand Krishna through the service, through the devotional service. And Krishna confirmed this statement in Bhagavad Gita: one can understand me only through the devotional service. Mental to neglect the process of devotional service, and by simply trying to defeat others in philosophical research, they fail to develop the ecstasy of devotion. So only with solely the jnana or doing the hard penance, they can attain Krishna. A devotional service is all powerful. So in the Bhagavatam, Krishna explains to Uddhava in 11th canto, 20th chapter, verses 31, 32, and 33, that byproduct of devotional service is knowledge and renunciation, and devotee doesn't have to perform a separate endeavor of it. Also, if the devotee aspire for benefit from purative activities, elevation to the heavenly planet, or spiritual benefit, just to go to Vaikuntha, devotional service is fully qualified to provide the desired result. And regular discharging devotional service in Krishna consciousness under the direction of spiritual master will purify oneself from performing any fruitive activities. That's why we need a guru. Sense enjoyment, material versus spiritual. So if we do anything just for the material sense enjoyment, so that won't help to get into Krishna consciousness. And offering bhoga to Krishna and accepting it as prasadam. So that is the form of renunciation. So we prepare the food uh, as in a like uh, devoted as a to offer as a prasad, to offer bhoga to Krishna, and then we take it as a prasadam. So solely we are not making to eat for us, so we are making for the God, and then we get as a prasad. Material sense renounce artificially, renounce everything material and undergo the severe austerity, but they do not engage in devotional service. Fall down. Only the holding tightly to Krishna lotus feet can prevent fall down to so impersonalists, so called sannyasi, fall down after some time into social works like philanthropic and political activities. So we see a lot of those in society nowadays, like people wearing like gerua bastra. They are claiming themselves as sadhus and sannyasi, but they are not actually doing what is supposed to be done. So we see a lot of those. So just being just they are impersonating to the saint and the holy person. And there's also the other category like fall down devotees. Krishna protect the devotee from fall down as they holding tightly to the lotus feet. Even if they fall down, they fall on the lap and quickly get up with the same vigor and enthusiasm. So for the devotee, Krishna save all the time. And material sense renounce. Okay, so devotee utilize favorable material thing for the service of Lord and do not reject like impersonalists as everything belong to Krishna. For example, Srila Prabhupada has expanded the Krishna consciousness movement using typewriter, dictating machine, tape recorder, and microphone and airplanes. As these are the material thing, but he is using to benefit. He is using to take the name of Krishna and to take it to the mass using this thing. He's not using for his sole personal gain or personal sense gratification. Krishna is the source of everything, and everything has to be utilized in the service of Krishna, and this is the real renunciation. So for the next, Parampara Prabhu will go from the slide 9.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So those were for the devotional service. It has been explained earlier, like how devotional service provides knowledge and renunciation as its byproduct. Now, acceptance and rejection criteria. There are rules and regulations for devotional service, which has to be strictly followed, especially during the neophyte stage. And though devotional service only requires us with a desire to please Krishna, but that does not mean that we whimsically um, um, try to please Krishna without knowing what exactly Krishna likes. So we should only accept everything that is favorable to Krishna consciousness, and that actually has been determined by Shastra, Sadhu, Guru, and not whimsically. At the same time, we need to reject everything unfavorable to Krishna consciousness, as determined by Shastra, Sadhu, Guru, and not a whimsical acceptance or determination or rejection. Next slide, please. Now, Srila Rupa Goswami also give guidance for the spiritual master. Spiritual master, as they practice devotional service, and it's natural that opulence follow opulence is follows a devotee. Now, spiritual master has more name, fame, followers, and wealth. So Srila Rupa Goswami tells not to be diluted by these opulences. And how can they still maintain purity? By strictly adhering to the principle of disciplic succession and the teachings, and not to concoct their own theory. Next slide, please. Now, devotional service is the supremely purifying process. Devotees, they do not have to go through any purificatory process of thoughts and action besides that is already been prescribed in the devotional service. Now, good qualities, or the Devic qualities that are obtained by following the mystic yoga and other yogic processes, devotees already have those qualities as a byproduct of performing devotional service. Now, Srila Prabhupada gives example like devotees are naturally non-violent and vegetarian, and devotees, they do not have to separately start a animal protection movement, vegetarian movement, vegan movement in this regard, because it's already there in the devotional service. Also, devotees have all the good qualities, and if there is a non-devotees who have good qualities from material estimation, that does not mean that one has actually become a devotee. So there is always a distinction between devotees good qualities and non-devotees good qualities, because in non-devotees, good qualities, even they have good qualities, with the due course of time, all those good qualities will be taken away, as by the illusion of Maya, as this material world deteriorates more. It's just like sometimes there are these reality shows called Big Boss, where all the good people are placed in and constrained on their material resource and given very unfavorable tasks, and they start showing their bad behaviors. So that will be the situation of anybody who has material qualification, good qualification, but are not following the devotional service. Next slide, please. Devotional service as a supremely purifying process. Other examples given in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is from Skanda Purana. It's a pastime between Narad Muni, hunter, and the Parvat Muni. Hunter was actually indiscriminately killing all the animals, and with the instruction of Narad Muni and accepting him as a spiritual master, it so transforms his heart that he is even scared to step over an ant or kill an ant. And Parvat Muni, being a great devotee, he is actually not astonished by this transformation, because he knows the potency of devotional service, and he knows that devotional service is extremely powerful, and that melting of the heart and that loving development is, is not astonishing for a pure devotee. Next slide, please. For the Vaidhi Bhakti, there is 9 different types of devotional service that comes with rules and regulations, and it is called Navabida Bhakti. Sravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. And one devotee can perform either one of these or combination of some of those listed, or they can perform all of the devotional service, and each one of them is supremely powerful. Each one of these devotional service is supremely powerful and can provide the ultimate result, or is capable of providing pure devotional service. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah, and this slide explains that even only one of the devotional service is supremely powerful and can provide pure devotional service. Just like Parikshit Maharaj, only he heard Bhagavatam, he got purified. Prahlad Maharaj was only remembering the Lord, and Lakshmi Mataji, she is just massaging the lotus feet of the Lord. Same with Akrura, offering prayers to the Lord, and Hanumanji providing dasyam or personal service to the Lord, and Bali Maharaj is offering all his possessions to the Lord and is completely purified. Now, purification means that at that time, maybe that was more applicable to them. Let's say Prahlad Maharaj was only remembering the Lord and he got purified. That does not mean that after he is purified, he will not perform other aspects of the devotional service. He is not limited to that. He can perform still any aspect of the devotional service. It is just saying that one is equally powerful to provide the final result of pure devotional service. Ultimately, the goal is to perform all and every kind of devotional service. Next slide, please. Now here is a devotional service for all 9 kinds that was actually performed by Amrish Maharaj, and how he attained perfection. He first all concentrated his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord, and then engaged his speech describing the pastime activities of the Lord. He engaged his hands in washing the temples of the Lord. He engaged his ears in hearing of the transcendental glory of the Lord. He engaged his eyes in seeing the beautiful deity. He engaged his body in associating with the pure devotees. Here, Srila Prabhupada further explains that association of devotees is very important. Eating only the food stuff of or touching the devotees, pure devotee is important, and avoiding association of non-devotee is important. Srila Prabhupada explains that. Also, like, he encased his nostrils in smelling the flowers and the tulsi leaf offered to Krishna, and tasting the Krishna Prasad that was offered to Krishna. So this is how Amrish Maharaj attained all perfection. Next slide, please. Now, devotional service with the rules and regulations, when we are is mostly serving the Lord in the opulence, serving Lord in opulence. So with this rules and regulations as prescribed in Shastra, it is talking about serving Lord in opulence, and it does not really talk about the, let's say, it may not encompass how the pure devotees, especially the devotees from Vrindavan, how they are performing the pastime, and how they are performing the devotional activities may not be explained in the Navavida Bhakti, because with the prescribed rules and regulations, at one point, that elevates to bhava and then prema, and in the stage of prema, the following the rules and regulations is they don't have to strictly adhere to it. That does not mean they will neglect it, because there is a spontaneous love for the Krishna. Whatever is needed to please Krishna, they can understand the heart of Krishna. And if the rules and regulations are being hindrance in the serving of the devotional aspect of the Lord, they might consider not following it strictly. Next slide, please. That's all for from our side for group 2 regarding devotional qualification. Any questions? Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So we'll take the questions at the end. Nice presentation. And one thing that we can also meditate on is, Prabhu, you talked about the 9 angas of bhakti, and then the 5 most potent aspects of bhakti. So it would be good in our mind, if you try to correlate those two, how does one map to the other from a practical perspective?
Okay, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Very good.
Hare Krishna. I'm gonna share my screen. This is from group 3. Let me know if everybody is able to see my screen.
Yeah.
I'll minimize this. Hare Krishna. I'm representing from group 3. This is a summation of NoD, chapter 15. It's, okay, it's not transitioning to this next slide. I don't know why. Okay. So this is just Krishna with all the gopis in Vrindavan. So how's the flow from chapter 14, right? So devotional, chapter 14 talks about devotional qualifications. And based on these qualifications, different kinds of devotee exhibit love for Krishna in different ways. So that's how it transitioned to what are the different kinds of devotees and how they exhibit their love towards Krishna is what is discussed in chapter 15. So the focus is on spontaneous devotional service, um, and spontaneous dealings of Vrindavan residents with Krishna is what is discussed. Um, I'll get this clarification a little later with by Hari Prabhu. My We have an understanding that it is Ragatmika Bhakti, but in chapter 15 it is mentioned as Raganuga Bhakti. So we'll go ahead with that and get it clarified later. And most of these spontaneous dealings that we see is the examples that is given as the cowherd boys, right? They have passed all the stages of regulative principles. They have in the previous lives, and they are having fun with Krishna, and there is a personal relationship with Krishna rather than um, looking at Krishna with as an sorry, Hare Krishna.
Brajaras Prabhuji.
I think we need to mute. Okay, I muted him.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So they have passed all these stages of regulative principles and in the previous lives, and now they are eligible or they are able to exhibit the true love for Krishna without having any of those um, you know conditions or as we say, it's an unconditional love towards Krishna. And devotional service itself is the only way to advance in devotional life. So and Vedic knowledge means ultimately means to understand supreme personality of Godhead, and entering into his kingdom is the devotional service. So basically what Prabhupada or Rupa Goswami is saying here is the ultimate goal of the devotional service is to understand Krishna and be in a relationship with Krishna, right? So, as it is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:12:31, Krishna says to Uddhava, "My dear Uddhava, for persons who are seriously engaged in my service, the cultivation of philosophical speculation and artificial renunciation are not very favorable. When a person becomes my devotee, he automatically attains the fruits of renunciation of material enjoyment, and he gets sufficient knowledge to understand the absolute truth. That is the test of advancement in devotional service." Rupa Goswami also says, has defined Raganuga Bhakti as spontaneous attraction from something while completely absorbed in the thoughts of it with the intense desire of love. As I stated earlier, It's more of the Raganuga Bhakti is at the stage where it's not about the knowledge, as previous presenters have already mentioned. It's not about the knowledge, it's not about the um, understanding of Krishna, but it's about the intense desire of love or to be in relationship with Krishna is what is spontaneous devotional service. And also, as it's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 11, 12, 32, and 33, the Lord mentions to Uddhava saying that all those fruitive activities, austerities, culture of philosophy, knowledge, renunciation, yoga, mystic, charity, all these kinds of different things one can do, those are simply uh, uh, kind of they are automatically achieved by the devotees. In the sense, if you become a pure devotee, these are uh, honored to you in some way or the other. But those who are simply attached to the loving service, they they don't have to anchor for these, and they don't anchor for this for the in the first place. So these devotees have everything at their disposal, and if even if they want, they can reach up to the Vaikuntha Lokas um, and any other uh, heavenly planets as well. But the devotees, the pure devotees, have one thing in their mind, is the causeless desire to be in relationship with Krishna. So also Rupa Goswami says, actually a person who has developed Krishna consciousness and still has some attachment to the material enjoyment will soon be freed by such tendency by regularly discharging devotional service. As we all know, with the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, what we can achieve is any such material enjoyments or hankering for material enjoyments are also taken away from the devotees. So further, Raganuga Bhakti has been divided into two categories. Raganuga Bhakti is sensual attraction and also relationships, right? So as Narad Muni stated to Yudhishthira in Canto 7, Chapter 1, verse 30 of Srimad Bhagavatam, devotees um, get the attraction to the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the purpose of sense gratification, from being envious of Him or out of fear of Him or from desires to associate affectionately with Him. So these are different kinds of devotees exhibit the qualities towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But ultimately, these attractions become free from all material contaminations and spiritual love develops. So, uh, in a way, we can say that these are different stages, sort of thing, which will, by um, in a regulative manner, by discharging devotional service, one can become free from all the material contaminations and go towards a pure love for Krishna. And he also mentions that example of spontaneous love in sensual attraction is the love of gopis towards Krishna. Superficially, Gopi's love for Krishna seems to be based on sex. King and also King Kamsa and Shishupala and Yadu dynasty members. King Kamsa and Shishupala also had some kind of attraction, even if it was negative. And Yadu dynasty members also had love towards Krishna. The different kinds of devotees have a different spontaneous attraction towards Krishna in different categories, but they all have the same desired goal of life. One may ask, how can we compare gopis to the attraction of Kamsa or Krishna? And that is where Rupa Goswami details it, how they are distinct from spiritual standpoint. So the attraction of gopis and Yadu dynasty towards Krishna are accepted as Raganugas. of Kamsa, and the attraction of Kamsa and Krishna is of fear, and the attraction of Shishupala was envy, and are not accepted as devotional service, as their attitude was unfavorable. When the affection is not at the platform of friendship, it is not it is uh, it's on on the platform of friendship. It is a spontaneous love, as the sakhas of Krishna had, or the friends of the Krishna had. But when it is on the platform of regulative principles, it is not a raganuga. It is difficult to understand the gopis, Kamsas, Shishupala are achieving the same goal. There is a spiritual distinction, as I mentioned, there is a spiritual distinction between uh, um, Brahma, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. They are all same, one absolute truth. But how each individual attains each of these stages of understanding is what is the difference between gopis, Kamsa, Shishupala, and others, right? So gopis get the access to the Bhagwan feature, which is the where the understanding is it's almost like a analogy that Rupa Goswami gives is a sun and the sunshine. So the people like Kamsa and Shishupala, because they were killed by Krishna, they attain the sunshine, so to say. It's like the Brahman or the Brahmajyoti that they attain, which is not same as attaining or understanding or being with the Bhagwan feature of Krishna. So the gopis are at the level of understanding and being with Bhagwan feature, versus Kamsa and Shishupala and others are at the sunshine level and not in the sun globe um, uh, feature of Krishna. So further, Rupa Goswami talks about achievements of personalists and impersonalists. So now that we spoke about what different kinds of qualities are there, then we talk about what are the different kinds of people who exhibit those qualities, and this is further disseminating what are the different kinds of people, like impersonalists and personalists. We can say personalists are the ones who are um, who understand and um, believe the personal feature of Krishna, and impersonalists are the ones who are more into impersonal Brahman. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu proclaimed that the impersonalists are to the offenders of the Lord, and Lord is merciful, so merciful that he allows even for them to enter into the kingdom and remain in impersonal jyoti. So sometimes the impersonalists gradually elevate themselves to the personal conception of life and get the opportunity to the elevate to the Vaikuntha lokas, but with the mercy of devotees. In Brahmanda Purana, it is stated that those who have achieved the liberation from material contamination and those demons that are killed by Lord absorbed in Brahman conception of life and reside in the spiritual sky of the Brahma Jyoti. But the pure devotees get to go to the spiritual planets as as they have developed their spontaneous love towards the Supreme Personality. The lusty attitude of the gopis does not refer to the sex indulgence. Rupa Goswami explains that the lusty desire refers to the desire, particularly attitude of the association with Krishna. Desire may seem to be desire for enjoying the Lord, but actually the endeavor is to serve the Lord in that capacity. As I said, when we say lusty, which means in case of gopis, it's an intense love for Krishna. That is how it may seem to be lusty attitude, but it is the intense love for Krishna is what depicted by gopis. And then Rupa Goswami talks about sensual attraction. The extreme desire for the Lord is manifested in the transcendental land of Raja and is specifically manifested among gopis. The gopis love Krishna is so elevated for our understanding, it is sometimes explained as lusty desire, but it is not the case. The author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Krishnadas, has explained the distinction between the lusty desire and the service attitude in this statement. Lusty desire refers to the desire to gratify one's personal senses, and transcendental desire refers to the desire to serve the senses of the Lord. Essentially, extreme love for Krishna is likened to sensual attraction, as it is intense, but it is not the same as a material physical attraction. Great devotees, up to the standard of Uddhava, are very dear friends of Lord, and they desire to follow the footstep of gopis. So the gopis' love for Krishna is certainly not a material lusty desire. Another instant Another instance is Lord Chaitanya himself. After accepting sannyas order of life, he was very strict about avoiding association with women. But still, he taught that there is no better method of worshipping Krishna convince than conceived by the gopis. Gopi's love for Krishna is misinterpreted and perceived to be the mundane transaction. By this way, they make an offense and they indulge in painting licentious pictures in some modernistic style. On the other hand, the lusty desire of Kubja is described by the learned scholars as being almost lusty desire. Kubja was the hunchback woman who also wanted Krishna with great ecstatic love, but her desire for Krishna was almost mundane, and so her love cannot be compared to the love of the gopis. Her loving affection for Krishna is called as Kama Praya, or almost like gopis' love for Krishna, but not the same as gopis' love for Krishna. Thank you. Jai Srila Prabhupada. And sorry, apologize for taking a little more time.
Thank you, Prabhu. I think this is one of the more difficult chapters, and definitely has a lot of philosophy built into it. So you did an excellent job simplifying it. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, that question I still have. I mean, thanks to Damni Mataji, who gave a reference of Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it said that the spontaneous devotional service exhibited by gopis and the sakhas is at the ragatmika bhakti. It is called as ragatmika bhakti, and people who follow these spontaneous devotional service, uh, people, their bhakti is called as raganuga bhakti. So I just wanted to clarify if that is the thing. If so, why chapter 15 talks about gopis bhakti as raganuga than ragatmika bhakti?
So the first part of your question, the definition, you're correct. Raga Atmika Bhakti is the devotion that is exhibited by the pure devotees of Krishna, especially in Vrindavan. So literal meaning of Ragatmika is one's whose very life is devotion to Krishna, Atmika. And Anuga, so wherever the word Anu comes, it means follow. So the Raghunath Bhaktas are sadhakas and very advanced devotees, but still they're still maturing. So they practice bhakti by meditating on the ragatmikas.
Hmm.
Yeah, so this is a stage when the person is mature enough in the bhakti to actually meditate on the leelas of Krishna. And then there is a whole process that under the direction of the guru, a person, and it is revealed through the process of bhakti, that the person is attracted to a particular personality. Maybe a gopi, maybe a gopa, maybe a tree, becomes esoteric, and then they essentially meditate on that and attempt to follow the mood of that person. So that's why they're known as Ragunags or Ragunag sadhakas there. Srila Prabhupada uses Ragunag as a generic term in this in the 14th chapter to cover both. But if you look at the placement of the chapter, it is the last two chapters in the section of Sadhana Bhakti. After that, we start with Bhava Bhakti, right? So this is talking about sadhakas, right? So Prabhupada uses the term Ragunag in a way when he describes the gopis and the gopas of Vrindavan, to just show the very close affinity of these advanced devotees, that they are there. The second point also is, which is a little bit of a stretch, to be honest, that we also know that the devotees around Krishna are of different categories. And so when the gopis were there, Krishna, it was said that there are the Nitya Siddha gopis, the Sadhana Siddha gopis, and then there were gopis who were actually not siddhas. They were under the training of the siddhas, and so they were the Ragunags. So even though they are gopis, like the Vedas personified, they were gopis, but they were not in the purified stage. But they appeared there to be trained to be in the purified stage. So if you look at it from that perspective, yes, there would be gopas and gopis who are in the Ragunag stage.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes if you have any discussions.
I think Prabhu had some question. He had his hand raised.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandava Pranam. Prabhuji, when Uddhava in Srimad Bhagavatam and other devotees, they are saying they want to follow the footstep of gopis, what does that essentially mean? Do they want to transform themselves to female body, or what is their mood they want to encompass from gopis in regard to their devotional service?
It's a very good question, Prabhu, and I can give a two-part answer. The one part is that all of the above that you were saying, that they want to get Gopi Bhav and they want to get Gopi Dev, they want to have conjugal pastimes with Krishna. So at that stage of advancement, they are qualified to think like that. So when Uddhav says that, then Uddhav specifically is talking about Gopi Bhav, that the mood of the gopis of surrendering everything, including their own chastity, including their own respect in the society, everything they surrendered for the pleasure of Krishna. So that's the mood of a devotee. So he's aspiring to develop that, that mode. When sadhakas like us talk about it, like what's the verse that the pujaris chant? Nam vipro na cha narpati napi vaishno shudro nam varni na cha grahapati no vanasto yatirva kintu prodya nikala parmananda parmananda premandan gopi bharator pad kamalayor das anudas, right? So when picharis go to the altar, they chant this verse, the Nam Vipro na Shubhamati. Basically saying, I'm not a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, I'm not a Grahastha, Sannyasi. Who am I? Gopi, Pad Kamalayor, Das Anudas. that may I be the servant of the servant of the servant of one who is serving the lotus feet of the gopis. So it is still saying that maybe develop the bhava of the gopis. So what does it mean that you serve the lotus feet? Which means that you serve the way that they are serving, which means that you assist in their service. But when we say that our mood is that maybe assist somebody who's assisting somebody who's assisting somebody a million times over in the service of Krishna, because our adhikar is just to not so much to develop the gopi bhav, but our adhikar is to develop the mood of service of those who are serving those who have gopi bhav, right? So depending on the context of the speaker's advancement, the gopi bhav could be interpreted slightly differently.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, can I add a follow-on question, Prabhuji?
Sure, Prabhu.
So,
Prabhu, I think you muted yourself by mistake.
oh yeah, sorry, Prabhuji. Yeah. So, Uddhava being in the Sakha Bhav, he wants to go to the Gopi Bhav, but like let's say there are devotees who are in the Vatsalya Prem with the Lord. Is that considered not so
Okay.
pure if they want to go to the Gopi Bhav, or do they also elevate that, or is that not a sign of elevation? Like there are devotees in Vatsalya Bhav, like how will they come to the Prema Bhav? Because like from friendship we are jumping to Prem, that is understood, but from Vatsalya coming to the conjugal states, is that impure, or how? What is that?
It's not impure. It's called rasabhas. Rasabhas is incompatible mellows. It comes later on the nectar of devotion, not in the 19 chapters we read. It's later on the chapter. It's called rasabhas, which means there are certain mellows that are intrinsically incompatible. Like you're saying, Vatsalya and Madhurya, they're intrinsically incompatible. That does not mean that they do not arise. They can arise. So we see in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, when the Dvijapatnis, the wives of the Brahmanas, so there's a pastime when the Brahmanas, they were performing the yagyas, Krishna and Balaram with the Gopas, they were hungry. So they sent to the Brahmans saying, give us food. And they said, we are performing yagya, go away. So they took and then said, Krishna said, go to the wives. And the wives immediately took all the food that was supposed to be the sacrifice, and they came to Krishna, and they fed Krishna nicely. And then Krishna said, thank you very much, Mata. But Krishna is so charming that they began to develop conjugal feelings towards him. And so they lingered on. They were so attracted by Krishna. And then Krishna very, very sweetly says that you go back and serve your husbands. But then he also, the collaborating point is, especially in this pastime, that Krishna says that anybody who comes to me, I don't turn the person away. So then why did he turn the Dvijapatnis away? If they had come with him, regardless of the previous rasa, if they come to him Madhurya rasa, why did he turn them away? And then I think if you read the verses there, then Krishna says that whatever that you have given me, I have accepted. Now be happy and go. So he accepted their offering. But because of circumstances, because it was incompatible, it was inappropriate for Brahmanas, for a wife of a Brahmana to take on the role of Krishna was a Vaishya. So because of that, in that Leela, he says, go away. But then he says, I have already accepted what you have offered. So the acharyas say that all this compatibility, incompatibility, etc., is manifested by the devotees. All contradictions are resolved in Krishna. Right. So if the mood of a devotee changes from one thing to another, it's up to Krishna. Because at that time, you're not dealing with rules and regulations, right? You're dealing with a person then. Two people are dealing with one another. So that is what is prime. When we study the nectar of devotion and the later on chapters that talk about mood of Vrajvasis, it's not that we are studying the rules by which they conduct their bhakti. what we are studying is the aspects of the bhakti that can inspire us. There is a difference between the two, right? We are bound by the rules. They are not bound by the rules. But when we study them, we are not saying that, okay, these are the set of rules that bind you. What we are studying is, what is it about your practice that can inspire us? Right? So that mood we have to understand. And that was one reason why Srila Prabhupada, even though he translated the subsequent chapters, but it's not part of Bhakti Shastri, and it becomes a little esoteric. So there's not much commentary on that. Prabhupada also wrote very minimal commentaries. So his subsequent chapters are 1 page, 2 page, very, very small chapters, because it becomes a little, we have a sadhaka mind. Even sadhaka, we are struggling sadhaka, so it becomes a little difficult for us.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for explaining so clearly. Haribol.
Thank you very much. So we will end over here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Kori Vaishnavind ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanand.
Hari
Very good.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Krishna Prabhuji,
Hari
thank
Bol.
you.
Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna.